lot of speeches today. I think I'm going to start it off. You can sit down. Honey, where are pages 6 through 25? A couple of things before we get started. Speak up a bit. First of all, Tracy and I would like to thank all of you for coming today to our wedding. In particular, we have people here today from Maryland and from Massachusetts, from Ohio and Quebec, from Colorado, and even all the way from England. Tracy and I would like you all to know that we are deeply touched, honored, grateful, and especially excited to see all of you standing before us or sitting before us on this very special day. I would also like to take a moment to talk about what Tracy and I see as the spiritual dimension of our ceremony. In the room, or here in the court today, we have quite a diversity of religions and spiritual disciplines represented. Despite the differences between these diverse approaches to spirituality, I think one concern they all share is with the common desire of the individual to feel connected to something larger and more important than him or herself. And although neither Tracy nor I practice anything resembling an actual religion, we both do have beliefs, concerns, and practices that we believe can be legitimately classified as spiritual, including this wish to feel part of something larger. And we have engaged a Unitarian minister to officiate and asked her to do her best to help us all to look for, find, and explore the overall spiritual significance of this wedding we are about to have. We would also like to encourage you to actively participate in this process in any way that feels appropriate to your own spiritual beliefs and practices. Tracy and I believe that weddings in general, and that our wedding in particular, is really as much about the guests, the friends, and the family who have come together to celebrate as it is about the bride and the groom. And so we encourage you to do whatever it is you need to do in order to feel comfortable and at home in this wedding. I would also like to elaborate a bit on what Tracy and I see as the spiritual significance of our marriage to each other, and in particular what our marriage has to do with this wedding today. Now at this point you might expect me to launch into a discussion of love and building a life together, to say something sweet and tender and romantic about how Tracy is my soulmate, my most loving and loyal friend, about how she's my hero, my favorite teacher, about how she is the yin to my yang, the jam on my toast, the sunshine on my Saturday morning, quite simply the most beautiful, smart, enthusiastic, resourceful, funny, yummy, passionate, an amazing woman I've ever met, that I consider myself extremely lucky that she has accepted to marry me and to be the mother of my children, and how I simply cannot imagine my life without her. And even though that's all true, and Tracy assures me that my feelings for her are more or less reciprocated, and even though those tender and romantic aspects of our personal relationship have a great deal to do with our actual marriage to each other, you might be surprised to learn that they have relatively little to do with today's wedding. This might seem a little paradoxical, so in order to explain it and to illustrate what we do see as the purpose of this wedding, I want to tell you about a man I met just a few months ago. Now, I had never met this guy or even heard much about him really. Until that afternoon, he was just some guy, an otherwise perfect stranger really, who had spent his whole life across the ocean, somewhere in the north of England, and who was on vacation in New York City that day, celebrating his anniversary with his wife, and who had made a special trip to come to our home just down the road in Madison in order to visit his niece, who happens to be Tracy. He and his wife came to our home, and we all had lunch together, and I had to tell you that for me, there was something truly heartwarming about watching the delight that this man expressed when he met our children, Molly and Oliver. The way he played with them and held them and laughed because they're so cute and goofy. It was very clear to me how much that he cared about them for my children, and really for no other reason than because, in addition to being my children, Molly and Oliver are also his sisters and grandchildren. And in seeing this, I glimpsed one of those surprising little facts that somehow manages to hide in plain sight. That fact being that Molly and Oliver, my own children, my flesh and blood, are actually members of somebody else's family. His family. This guy from Newcastle, England, an almost perfect stranger to me, when he looks at Molly and Oliver, he actually sees two more branches on his own family tree. And what's more, simply because my children are members of his family, this man, this stranger from across the ocean, is also now a member of my family. I think that this little event illustrates what Tracy and I see as the true potential of marriage, its larger purpose, so to speak, which is that it can take two otherwise separate groups of people, two families who have otherwise nothing in common, and connect them into a single family. Of course, having children is really just one highly effective way that a marriage can try to fulfill this potential. Another powerful way that families can connect is through friendship. Both the loving and loyal friendship that binds a couple emotionally, but of course, a true and loyal friendship between any two people can accomplish this as well. And of course, the power of marriage to unite families is really just the potential, something that marriage can accomplish, and in varying degrees, but whether and how much it does so, no doubt depends on lots of other factors as well. But Tracy and I believe that one of those factors is actually the wedding that initially celebrates the marriage. A wedding is an opportunity for all of the members of an extended family to connect and reconnect with the larger community in which the wedding occurs. And this is really the main reason we want to have this wedding, what our own marriage has to do with it, and why we are so very excited to see you all here today. As I said earlier, Tracy and I are not looking at our wedding today as simply our wedding. In no small measure, we see this wedding today as belonging to all of us here as a family, extended by each of us, whether genetically or through friendship, or both. Take it away. And whether your own personal connection to this family is grounded in a friendship that you share with someone here today, or whether it is braided directly into the DNA that you share with our children, Molly and Oliver, it is our hope that you will come away from today's ceremony with an expanded sense that you belong to something truly greater than yourself, our family.